The Olmecs, guardians of the dawn and the humid and fertile lands of the Gulf of Mexico, where the jungle merges with winding rivers, there arose more than 3,000 years ago a civilization that still defies modern understanding. The Olmecs, known as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, not only built colossal monuments and developed complex symbols, but also left behind a legacy shrouded in mystery. A bridge between the visible and the invisible worlds, between the past we remember and the origins we can only faintly sense. When one looks at the map of ancient Mesoamerica, it's impossible not to pause on three key points: San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Transoceanic. In these alluvial plains, the Olmecs erected their main ceremonial centers. San Lorenzo, the oldest, rose near the first great waterways of southern Veracruz. La Venta, located in what is now Tabasco, flourished as it gazed upon the horizon through pyramids that dominated the landscape. And Transoceanic, farther west, marked the endurance and reach of this culture over time. Together, these sites form the essential map of the Olmec world, a ritual triangle at the heart of the Gulf whose traces extend into regions now occupied by Oaxaca and the Valley of Mexico. But what makes these places so extraordinary? A simple excavation reveals the remains of an astonishing civilization. San Lorenzo was not only the first great Olmec center of power, it was also a technical marvel. Hand-dug canals to drain and redistribute water, massive artificial platforms built with tons of earth and stone, monumental sculptures transported from distant quarries. Each stone and canal speaks of advanced knowledge, of an organizational capacity that challenges traditional archaeological estimates of what was possible in the Americas during the second millennium BCE. These grand Olmec ceremonial centers were not just temples and palaces, they were laboratories of cultural innovation. The first earthen pyramids preceded those of the Maya and Mexico by centuries. The Olmecs conceived altars, thrones, and plazas aligned according to intricate astronomical and geographical principles. The evidence of their architecture attests not only to a deep practical understanding of hydraulic engineering, but also to a worldview in which every canal, every mound, held spiritual meaning within the relationship between humankind, nature, and the gods. Yet nothing captures the imagination like the colossal Olmec heads. Hidden among jungle and swamps, 17 of these sculptures have been unearthed to date. Carved from basalt, volcanic rock, quarried dozens of kilometers away, so may wake, or bear 20 tons, and stand up to 3 meters tall. The faces are enigmatic and imposing, with full lips, broad noses, and firm jaws. Their carved helmets, decorated with undeciphered symbols, heighten the sense that these giants guarded sacred thresholds. Whom or what do they represent? Traditional interpretations associate them with ancestral rulers or warriors. However, since the mid-20th century, alternative voices have suggested that these features display a diversity rarely seen in ancient American iconography. Independent researchers have proposed that some faces resemble African, Polynesian, or Asian profiles, opening the possibility of transoceanic contact predating official records. For instance, some theories suggest that African voyagers, perhaps from West Africa, crossed the Atlantic long before Columbus, bringing with them their traits and knowledge. Others point to similarities with Asian physiology, though controversial and not yet confirmed by conclusive genetic or linguistic evidence. These ideas reflect the fascination evoked by the universality of certain Olmec symbols and techniques. Perhaps, rather than direct contact, what we perceive is the persistence of a universal iconographic coda, visual grammar that transcends cultures and continents. Where archaeological fact intertwines with myth, the Olmecs emerge as guardians of ancestral memory. Their art is a testimony. Jaguars, feathered serpents, human figures, half-feline. The jaguar, supreme symbol of power, is omnipresent and steely, axes, and figurines. It represents mastery over fertility, water, transformation, and connection with supernatural forces. The serpent, in turn, links earth and sky, the underworld and the cosmos. And within Olmec iconography, it foreshadows myths that centuries later would be embraced by the Maya and Mexica. Water, jaguar, and serpent. These three symbols together reflect a worldview centered on change, duality, and the pursuit of balance, while also evoking ancient tales of floods and destruction. Indeed, parallels between Olmec mythology and the later Maya popul Vuendi flood myths of Mesopotamia, China, or Egypt have led some to ponder whether they preserve a collective memory of a great cataclysm, perhaps the very one that ended the last ice age. If the Olmecs possess knowledge of that lost world, their language was its repository. The Olmec calendar is among the oldest chronological systems in the Americas. It divided time into ritual cycles of 260 days, later adopted and modified by the Maya. These cycles corresponded to seasonal movements, agricultural phases, and astronomical observations. Mastery of the calendar required a precise understanding of celestial cycles. Monuments have been found depicting specific dates, and columns of glyphs suggest that the Olmecs had sages dedicated exclusively to calculating and recording the passage of time. Alongside the calendar, Olmec writing remains another fascinating enigma. At La Mojara, and most notably on the famous Cascayo block, inscriptions have been found on stone and clay slabs. The Cascayo block, discovered in Veracruz, contains what many consider the oldest writing in the Americas. About 62 different signs arranged in horizontal lines, suggesting a structured system of symbols capable of expressing complex ideas and proper names. Though still undeciphered, the existence of this system indicates that the Olmecs kept records, genealogies, and possibly written myths, centuries before the rise of the Maya. In art, Olmec aesthetics astonish for their power and refinement. Beyond the colossal heads, there are intricately carved jade figurines, votive axes, shaped like animals, steely engraved with astronomical symbols, and numerous altars. The Olmecs mastered the working of jade, obsidian, serpentine, and other hard-to-carve materials requiring not only technique but also access to extensive trade networks. And here a new map emerges. That of Olmec commerce. The presence of Olmec artifacts in the Oaxaca Valley, Chiapas, Guerrero, and even southern Central America reveals that they established long-distance trade routes across rivers, coasts, and land. In exchange for jade, shells, obsidian, and cacao, the Olmecs disseminated their iconography and influence, forging commercial and political ties with distant regions. Thus, their art, religious, and technological symbols, and even their astronomical ideas became the shared heritage of later peoples, such as the Zapotecs, Maya, and Mexica. Architecturally, the Olmecs created the first prototypes of sacred cities. La Venta, for instance, housed an earthen pyramid over 30 meters high, surrounded by complex courtyards, altars, and sculptures aligned precisely with solstices, and these spaces were conceived to facilitate rituals of renewal and cosmic connection. Each structure was a microcosm, a reflection of the universe in which the shaman priest, and jaguars. Secrets mediated between the forces of nature and the ancestors. However, around 400 BCE, Olmec civilization began to fade. The exact causes of its collapse remain debated. Scholars suggest a combination of climate change, soil depletion, pressure from neighboring peoples, or internal conflicts. What is certain is that their main centers were gradually abandoned, temples overtaken by the jungle, and trade routes redirected. Yet the Olmec spirit did not vanish. It persisted, reimagined, and revered in the cultures that inherited their wisdom and symbolism. A tapestry of influence weaves through time. The Olmec calendar, perfected by the Maya, sacred architecture refined by the Zapotecs in Mexico, and the ideas of duality, transformation, and cosmic balance still pulsing in the codices and rituals of Mesoamerica. In San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Trezapotes, the stone, jade, and symbols of the Olmecs continue to evoke the memory of a lineage of guardians, who at the threshold of dawn kept watch over the mystery of the eternal. Were the Olmecs truly the bearers of wisdom brought from distant land, survivors of a world before a universal cataclysm? Or was their genius the unique fruit of millennia of observation, adaptation, and spirituality blooming in the heart of the jungle? Perhaps ultimately the story of the Olmecs is the story of all peoples, an invitation to look beyond the ordinary, to seek the signs of connection that cross ages and continents, to rediscover an art, symbol, and stone, the echo of knowledge as ancient as humanity itself. If you enjoyed this documentary, we invite you to give it a like, activate the bell, and subscribe to rewrite our history.